Just 30 seconds before the door closed, the Corgi knew he was about to be left alone. He had not seen the keys yet. His owner had not put on a coat. But the rhythm of the footsteps in the room had changed. Drawers opened faster. A bag landed on the table. The phone was checked again and again. To a person, it was just a busy morning. To the Corgi, every sound was a warning. He lay on the rug near the window. Both ears stood tall. His eyes never left the person moving around the kitchen. Each time his owner walked into another room, he got up and followed. He did not run. He did not bark. He simply stayed close behind. His short tail barely moved. His owner looked down and smiled. "Be good. I'll be back soon." The voice sounded higher than usual. A hand rubbed his head a little too hard. Then came another hug, another promise, and a few guilty seconds by the door. His owner thought this would help him feel safe. But the Corgi did not understand the words. He only felt that something was different. A tighter voice, a longer hug, a sadder look. His small body went on alert. Then his owner picked up the keys. The soft clink of metal filled the room. To the Corgi, it sounded like an alarm. He rushed forward and blocked the door. The door opened. The Corgi tried to squeeze through the gap. He was not trying to run outside. He just did not want to be left behind. The door closed. The lock clicked. The house went silent. The Corgi stood still for a few seconds, staring at the doorknob. He waited for the door to open again. But nothing happened. He began to pace. Every car and every footstep in the hallway sent him rushing back to the door. And this was the real problem. The Corgi's stress did not begin after his owner left. It had started long before that. It began with the hurried footsteps, the bag on the table, the worried voice, the goodbye that his owner believed was an act of love. A few minutes later, the owner's phone buzzed. The home camera had sent a motion alert. On the screen, the Corgi was no longer standing by the door. He was racing in circles around the living room. His nails tapped quickly against the floor. He jumped onto the couch, then back down. Then he rushed to the window when a car stopped outside. The Corgi ran back to the front door. He gave a soft whine, then scratched at the edge of the door. Before this, his owner had only seen pillows on the floor and a rug pulled out of place. He had assumed the dog was acting out because he was bored. But the camera showed something else. The Corgi was not playing. He was scared. 10 minutes passed. He still would not lie down. Every small sound made his whole body jump. The elevator, a neighbor's door, a sudden commercial on the television. The Corgi barked and ran between the window and the front door. He had no idea where the danger was coming from. His owner had left the television on, hoping the sound of human voices would make the house feel less empty. But the constantly changing noise only made the dog more tense. A soft song ended. Then a loud car horn burst from the television. The Corgi jumped, slipped, and hit the leg of a table. That was when his owner understood. The dog did not need more toys. He needed to feel safe. But every signal in the house was telling him the opposite. Before leaving, his owner had held him too long and spoken in a worried voice. After leaving, the house filled with sudden, unpredictable sounds. Together, they became one long chain of warnings. The Corgi did not know when his owner would return. He only knew that the most important person in his world had disappeared. If you have ever seen a dog follow someone from room to room, stay with Corgi Corner. Small behaviors can say what people have not yet learned to hear. 20 minutes later, the Corgi stopped in front of the door. He lifted his head. There were footsteps in the hallway. The dog pressed his nose to the gap under the door. His short tail began to move. The footsteps stopped right outside. The doorknob turned slightly. The Corgi sprang up, sure that his owner had come home. But the door did not open. A stranger was trying the wrong apartment. The doorknob shook again. This time, the Corgi stepped back. Then he barked hard. His owner quickly called a neighbor. But before the call connected, the doorknob moved again. The Corgi charged straight at the door. A sharp thud filled the room. He bounced backward, then got right back up. The stranger realized the mistake. The doorknob stopped moving, and the footsteps faded away. There was no real danger. But the Corgi did not know that. He kept barking. His breathing was fast. His front legs trembled. His owner spoke through the camera. The familiar voice filled the room. The Corgi froze and turned toward the camera. He could hear the voice, but he could not see the person. Confused, he ran around the room. He searched behind the couch and under the table. When his owner called again, the dog answered with one short whine. His owner turned the car around at once. The camera kept sending alerts. The Corgi had stopped barking, But the silence was even more frightening. He stood by the door with his head low. One front paw would not rest fully on the floor. The impact had hurt his leg. He tried to take a step. His body leaned to one side. At that exact moment, a loud alarm sounded from the television. The Corgi jumped. He tried to run toward the window, but the sore paw made him lose his balance. His small body slid across the floor and hit the water bowl. Water spilled everywhere. The metal bowl rolled away with a sharp, ringing sound. The frightened dog rushed toward the couch, but the floor was wet. He slipped again. This time, he stayed down. His owner stared at the screen and felt his heart stop. There was no barking, no sound of nails on the floor. There was only the Corgi lying beside the couch, his chest rising and falling far too fast. His owner called twice. Only one ear moved. The car stopped in front of the building. His owner raced through the lobby. Every floor on the elevator felt painfully slow. He could only see the image of the dog lying still. When the elevator doors opened, he ran into the hallway. The keys fell from his hand. It took 2 tries to get the key into the lock. The moment the door opened, a soft whine came from inside. The Corgi tried to lift his head. His owner knelt beside him. There was no tight hug, no loud voice. He placed one gentle hand on the dog's chest. He slowed his own breathing and kept his voice low. The Corgi looked up. His body was still shaking, but after a few seconds, his breathing began to slow. He could still move his toes, but it hurt when his paw touched the floor. He needed to be checked right away. On the way to the clinic, his owner kept thinking about that morning. The stranger, the television, and the fall had made everything worse. But the real panic had started before the door ever closed. It began with the stress his owner had passed to him without meaning to. After the exam, the veterinarian said the paw was only mildly sprained. But the next words made the owner go quiet. The injury would heal soon. The fear of being left alone could grow much worse if the same routine continued. To help the Corgi, the owner had to change first. The next day, he did not leave the house the old way. There was no rushing, no constant checking of the clock, no long hug or worried goodbye. Everything was prepared early. The bag sat by the door. The keys stayed quiet on the table. The television stayed off. Instead, a soft and steady sound played in the room. There were no sudden noises. A worn shirt was placed on the familiar rug. The Corgi lay nearby and watched every move. His ears lifted slightly when his owner put on a coat, but this time, the feeling in the room did not change. His owner sat beside him. He did not hold the dog tightly. He simply rested a hand on the Corgi's chest. After a few seconds, the dog's body began to relax. He did not jump to his feet. His owner walked to the door. He did not look back again and again. He did not stretch out the goodbye. The door closed softly. The Corgi lifted his head and looked at the doorknob. 1 minute passed. He stayed on the rug. 3 minutes later, the elevator sounded in the hallway. Both ears stood up, but he did not run to the door. He lowered his head onto the familiar shirt and stayed still. His owner had only gone downstairs. 5 minutes later, the door opened again. The owner walked in calmly, put away the keys, and then sat beside the dog. The short tail wagged again and again, but the Corgi was no longer breathing hard. The next day, the time increased to 10 minutes, then 15. Sometimes the dog still paced or gave a soft whine when he heard the lock. But his owner did not return to the old routine. Every departure felt the same, calm, predictable, free of panic. A few weeks later, the camera recorded a completely different scene. The Corgi watched the door close. He waited a few seconds. Then he returned to the rug, turned in a circle and lay down. Footsteps passed through the hallway. Only one ear moved. There were no loud commercials, no metal bowl rolling across the floor, no nail scratching at the door. There was only a dog resting in a familiar home. At last, his owner understood that love does not always mean holding tighter or saying more. Sometimes love means staying calm, so your dog knows he is still safe. If stories like this help you understand your Corgi, stay with Corgi Corner. Behind every small behavior, there is something your dog is trying to tell you. And this time, the owner finally listened.